Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Vax and US, a virtual conversation about the vaccine, the big vaccine we've all been talking about. I'm Bijou Star from 93.1 WZAK. Hey, Maddie Wills.
What's up, Bijou? And I'm Maddie Wills, do the midday show on Z1079. And real important conversation we're about to have, Bijou. I'm glad we're having it.
Definitely. I know a lot of people have a lot of questions. And so that's what we're here today to do. And there is no doubt that there is skepticism when it comes to the vaccine, all right? From a bad history with vaccines and the Black community, uncertainty of long-term effects of the vaccine, and even just mistrust of the government, all right? We are here today to talk about it all. We want to talk about everything. And we're joined by our special guest, Danielle Syndor, president of the NAACP Cleveland chapter, Dr. Erin Bell of Metro Health System, president of Miss Marsha Mocabee. She may be making it to talk to us today, so we're hoping she can get on with us. That's the president of the Cleveland Urban League. Also, we have Dr. Gregory Hall, the president of the Cuyahoga Board of Health, and he is also a primary care physician who has been practicing over 25 years. And we're going to be having this open and honest conversation today with you all. We made a point to have people here that look like us to talk to us honestly about this vaccine today. And we're definitely going to take all your questions as well. But we want you to get the facts, and we want you to be able to make the best decision for you and your family. So that's what we're here to do today. So Maddie, take it away.
Yeah, so Bijou, you brought everybody in, and I'm glad that, me and B was just going back and forth. I'm glad that we're really having this conversation because it's such an important conversation to have. So we'll just kind of go through the panelists one more time. Danielle Syndor, of course, she's our resident expert, like AC just told us in the pre-production meeting on just about everything. Danielle, how you doing today? President of the NAACP Cleveland chapter.
I'm doing well. I'm so happy that we're doing this evening. Some people think that we shouldn't still be talking about the vaccine, but we know it's important, especially for our community.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us again. If and when Mrs. Mocabee hops on, we'll wrap with her for sure. But up next, we got Dr. Erin Bell. He's a family medicine physician for the Metro Health System. Or she is. I'm sorry. How you doing?
Hi. Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us again. Like I'm gonna keep reiterating this because I told all my friends, like, yo, I need you on this call tonight because I'm sure, like everybody, we got some people that's a little skeptical about what's going on. So I'm glad we got the experts in here tonight to really tell everybody what's really going on. Up next is Dr. Gregory Hall, president of the Cuyahoga Board of Health and a primary care physician who has been practicing for over 25 years. That's an expert for sure.
Right. Well, that's an old expert, right?
Nah, you don't look old, bro. You don't look old at all, man. We're not going to claim that. But thank you again, too. Same thing. We appreciate you being here. Everybody, we hope to have a great conversation. So thank you.
Happy to be here.
All right. Yes, thank you all so much for being here once again. So before we start, we do want to make it clear that the opinions expressed during the course of this event may not reflect the views of Urban One Incorporated and or of its subsidiaries or affiliates. All right. So without further ado, let's jump right into it.
All right. So these first questions here, bad history with vaccines, right? A look back at broken down trust over the vaccines. And this one is for everybody. Why doesn't the Black community, we'll do ladies first. So we'll start with Danielle. Why doesn't the Black community trust the vaccine?
So I think there's a number of reasons why. And I think we can go back to the history of the Tuskegee experiment. You have the history of just the government not totally being honest and transparent with Black people. And that's not a long time ago that those things have happened. And so even the Tuskegee experiment, while that might have been some years ago, the level of mistrust with the government continues to really run deep. And so what I continue to hear from people is it really boils down to a trust issue. It's not that people don't want to be protected. It's not that people don't want to be in a position where they can move about freely, but this barrier of trust is something that we have to overcome, which is why platforms like this, we bring Black doctors who have insight and who can provide context on how these vaccines actually came to be. And while we might feel like it happened very quickly, or this is all this new technology, they can help to confirm that this is not so undifferent. This is not that much different than how a lot of the medicines and drugs that we take today have been developed.
Does anybody else want to chime in on that question as well?
I think also we're used to so much politics and red tape when it comes to getting drugs approved, vaccines approved. We all felt like, the vaccine came out pretty fast, and we're not used to that. And so this was unique because we took out the fact that, drug companies were trying to make money, taking out, the whole process of how vaccines and drugs are approved. And we really took to heart making this effort a humankind effort that we needed to save people, not only in the United States, but across the world. So a lot of us were very hesitant because we're not used to, saying, within a year having a vaccine available. And we had concerns about whether or not it was going to be safe or not because it came out so quickly. But this just proved we can do anything, and we don't need all of the red tape and all of the other things that were needed before in order to get drugs and vaccines approved.
One of the things I wanted to mention in terms of history is that, an African slave brought the whole concept of vaccinations to North America. And so our history is a slave named Onesimus brought it to a Puritan minister. And during the smallpox, during 1721, during the smallpox epidemic, and people were dying left and right, and the slave said, well, back in Africa, this is what we do. And it was a little inoculation. And he took that, refined it, and then, of course, discovered, modern day vaccinations. And so, wow. But this Onesimus did not discover it. He said they've been doing this in Africa for centuries. And so the process of inoculating someone and them being immune to getting a very sick disease, getting very sick from a disease, is something that goes back centuries. Wow. It goes back, and it was brought to North America by an African. So it's something that really it's in our blood to adopt this, because this is something that goes way before medicine. It's not modern medicine. This is age-old, cradle of civilization type medicine. And so when people sort of find out the history, I want to discuss, like you guys do, what are the facts? You can do whatever you want from my perspective. You can do whatever you want, but do it based on having all the information that you can use.
That's great information to have, and a little Black history fact as well that I did not know. I love learning.
Neither did I. That was dope. That was definitely dope.
That was a gem right there. Sure. So looking back at the Tuskegee experiment and other things in history, is there a reason to believe that the government uses vaccines on Black and brown communities as experiments even today?
I'll answer that. I'm gonna jump in. This is the reason why I felt it was important for me to be here. I'm the president of the Cuyahoga County Board of Health. And so I don't know how they would get that past me, number one. Number two, the planning would be incredible. The Tuskegee syphilis experiment was horrendous, but it was about not treating syphilis. It really wasn't a vaccine-based problem. But the story I was telling you about the Onesimus, back in Boston during the smallpox, of course, they tried it on the Black slaves first, right? They tried this, what they heard came from Africa. They weren't sure about it. They tried it on the Black slaves first. So there's nothing to put past people to experiment on you, but there's a lot of things in place now to try to stop, to try to prevent that. And there are people strategically placed that you've got to get past a lot of different people in order to try to pull that off. It's just, this all happened over a year ago. It came at us fast and furious. We were all trying to figure out what we were doing while it was going on. And, historically, as a primary care physician, African Americans are the lowest. They don't like flu shots, pneumonia shots, right. HPV. African Americans do not like vaccines, and they don't get them in very high numbers, right? And so if there was a conspiracy to do something, particularly to African Americans, using a vaccine is a bad plan, right? Because African Americans don't like vaccines even before COVID came along. And so I always say, and this will be controversial, but if you want to do something to African Americans, you would put it in a menthol cigarette or a flavored cigar, because those are African Americans smoke menthol cigarettes 80% compared to 20% of whites. So if you wanted to be surgical about something, as far as African Americans, the menthol cigarette would be a way better plan than a vaccine, which historically we don't really like.
Don't give people no ideas now, Dr.
Yeah. Hold some of that down. But good points, though. Very good points. We appreciate that.
Yeah. Anybody else want to chime in on that? All right,
we'll go to the next one. Up next, we've got, with such a hyper focus on Black and brown communities, this feels forced and reminds us of history, of the history of vaccines in this country, which we've been going over. Is there a reason that our communities are focused on, and do we have a legit reason to worry?
I'll jump in. I think, Dr. Hall already talked about some of the things that are just untrue. So the vaccine is not solely being focused on Black and brown communities. What we know is Black and brown communities are less likely to voluntarily want to take it. So yes, more time and attention is being spent because of all of the information that we've heard about herd immunity and what we need to do to slow down the spread. It means that every single race, ethnicity, gender in our community has to be vaccinated. So if all the white folks get vaccinated and we don't, the math doesn't work. If you look at what's happening in countries that are still developing, like India and others, they're begging for other nations to provide vaccines to them because they're having new crises and outbreaks. So this is not, again, just solely focused on Black folks, and this is not just focused on Americans. Everybody is trying to get access to the vaccine. And so what we don't want to see happen, and I've said this to many members of our community, the fact that they opened the Wolstein Center and are doing all of these mass pushes to get our folks vaccinated, at some point, we're not going to continue to see this full court press. And then when you decide, okay, now I'm ready, and you can't find it, it's not going to be as easy to get a hold of them. So take advantage of the fact that right now we have the surplus of resources and we're making it widely and easily available. Don't wait until it's too late and then you're scrambling to try and find access to the vaccine.
And I'd add that the fact that there are African Americans strategically placed throughout Northeast Ohio, not just me, but at the Cuyahoga County Board of Health, we're pushing to make sure that we're equitably passing out, we're equitably testing, we're equitably vaccinating. We don't want to be blamed and say, well, why is it that you've got X number of one race getting vaccinated and this big number of another race not getting vaccinated? Well, why aren't you doing that? That's not fair. So we're being deliberate about really going after certain communities because we want to make it look like we're being fair, because I don't want to be the president of the Board of Health and say, you disproportionately didn't do African Americans, so we're pushing for this. We're being deliberate about doing this because we're strategically placed in positions where we can push for it.
And to add on, when you look at those populations who have had the serious complications, including death, it's been Black and brown communities. So the focus has been on us so that we can reduce our rates of death and long-lasting complications. Because once we even get past Black and brown folk dying from the virus, there are going to be lasting complications from it. And we know that there's racial inequities in healthcare. And if we can eliminate those inequities by getting people vaccinated, then that is also playing a part that keeping us at the table so that we can continue to affect change in healthcare, in business, and in education. So that's also why the focus has been on us as well, is to keep us here so that we can continue making changes throughout the United States and the world.
Yeah, 3 very good points. And just to highlight one thing that Dr. Hall said, I know in my experience, I'm sure we've all experienced this to some degree, but so many people in our community think that, the higher up the chain you go in these corporations and health fields or whatnot, you see less of us. So it's very important that they're seeing and hopefully hearing right now that they're, it's not just white people, for a lack of a better term, making all of these decisions at the end of the day. So that's one thing that I try to stress throughout the week as well. But very good first segment, everybody. I appreciate, all those candid answers. We're going to move on to part 2, titled, Well, I Heard, Myths and Misconceptions About the Vaccine. So Danielle Syndor, we'll start with you. What's in the vaccine and how do we know it's safe?
So I'm going to let one of the doctors answer what's in the vaccine. How do I know it's safe? Because I got both doses and I'm still here. Hey. Both of my kids got both doses. They're still here. My great aunt, who is in her 80s, got both doses. My mama got it. My sister got it. And everybody's okay. So I'm going to let the doctors talk about what's in it.
Well, I mean, it's a vaccine, right? It makes your immune system, it sort of alerts your immune system that you're about to be infected by something, right? And so I just had a patient a couple of days ago call me because the lymph nodes in her neck swole up, and then she had a sore throat, and then the sore throat went away and the lymph nodes went away. And she said, "What just happened? I'm worried." I said, "Well, your body was doing what it's supposed to be doing." You know, the lymph nodes make white blood cells, the white blood cells attack whatever you were about to get, and you didn't get sick, right? And so the same thing is true of the vaccine. The vaccine alerts your body about what the coronavirus looks like, so that when you see the coronavirus in real life, your body says, "Oh, no, you're not coming here," and it blocks it. It's a simple immune reaction. Again, it's been around for centuries.
And I don't know if Dr. Bell feels me.
And when you receive the vaccine, I have a lot of patients say they're going to give me coronavirus if I get the vaccine. And the vaccine does not contain the virus. So we are not giving you the virus. We are teaching your body how to fight the virus if you happen to get it. You're creating that immune response. We're not giving anybody a shot of coronavirus.
So I just want to chime in on that question, because we were told we can get all deep into these questions with y'all. You are the experts. We want to know from you. But so what we're saying, what's inside of the vaccine. So for those who have autoimmune diseases, how would that possibly affect someone? Because we know it triggers the immune system to know something about the virus right there. So how would that possibly affect those who are affected by that?
Well, if your immune system is not quite working right, then the vaccine might not quite work right. Right. And so there are people that are on medications that suppress their immune system, something like prednisone, right, or steroids. Sometimes that can suppress your immune system. And so if your immune system's suppressed, and then you're trying to give you a vaccine to get your immune system going, it might not work. Right. Then so some of the people who it doesn't work in, that 5% that they say 95% effective. So this 5% is, maybe not so effective. Who are those people? Those people might have a problem with their immune system, or their immune system might be distracted by someone else. That's why they say, if you're sick, you don't, that's not the time to get the vaccine, because your immune system's already fighting something else. So don't make it, confused. And so people that are on things that suppress their immune system will need to talk to their doctors and see, well, am I on something strong enough that's suppressing my immune system so much that I shouldn't even bother get the vaccine?
Good information to know. So I don't know, Dr. Bell, if you want to chime in at all.
I think just the most important thing, adding on to what Dr. Hall said, is really talking to your doctor, your primary care provider. And the pandemic has really gotten our community to come out to reestablish with a primary care provider, because these are conversations that you need to have before you get the vaccine. What is your risk? Are you taking certain medicines that will prevent the vaccine from working? But urging everyone to establish with a doctor, a nurse practitioner, or a physician assistant to take care of them on a regular basis. We may get to the point where COVID will go away or is not such big of a deal, but we still have the fallout of everything else, and you still need to get good health care.
Yeah. Great information to have right there. So, Dr. Bell, since we're talking to you, I've got a question for you. So, I know this might sound crazy, but we are trying to dispel all myths that there might be out here. Okay, so don't laugh. But are there any tracking chips or other tracking technology that could be, implanted into your body when you get this vaccination? I didn't come up with this question, but
that's okay. I've heard it before with talking with my patients, even talking with my family. There is no tracking chips, no tracking devices in the vaccine. This is what I've told my family and I've told patients. If the government or anybody else wanted to track you, this is the best way to track you. Is your cell phone. Okay. So we already have it. Why take the time to try to build in a chip when we got these already? So no, there is not a tracking device or any chips or anything that they're going to put into your system when you get the vaccine.
That's good to know.
You made such a good point, Dr. Bell. Like, why do people think that we not being tracked already with these phones? We already got so many issues with nowadays. You got different colors on your phone to see if they're looking at your video or you're listening to your audio, echo dots and all of this. So I think that they have a bunch of easier ways to track us if they wanted to track us. So I appreciate you telling everybody that, because sometimes we just still need to hear it out loud. Dr. Hall, this next one is for you. Vaccines usually take years to be approved. How and why was this one approved so quickly?
Well, that's a question we hear a lot, because it was a priority, right? It was a worldwide priority. Billions of dollars have been lost because of businesses closing, people not going to basketball games or football games or the ice capades or somebody's house or getting married or the party center, right? Or just catering things at the house. Just billions and billions, and the economies across the world are going. So it became a worldwide priority, and everyone was on the same page. And so when you get that kind of focus, and that the politicians were on the same page, everyone was on the same page. We needed a vaccine, and so with that priority, then the FDA said, we're gonna pull these people together, because you're trapped at home anyway, and you're going to review this ahead of whatever else was first in line, right? Because this is a priority. There's too much money getting lost, and the companies were, you put together a vaccine that works, and you get to the finish line, and what do? You get a lot of money. So so all of the companies' resources were put toward that, when normally, when they're doing a vaccine, we're working on a vaccine, we're working on some blood pressure medicine, we're working on some antibiotics. No, stop all that. Everybody's going to work on this daggone vaccine so we can try to get around this, because if we get to the finish line, that's going to be important. And you'll notice, like, AstraZeneca has not been able to get to the U.S. finish line because they haven't been. But Pfizer has, Moderna has, J&J sort of lagged behind. So they're trying not to sacrifice safety, right? So when they had the blood clots with the J&J, they stopped it, even though the incidence for blood clots when you get COVID is super higher than with the vaccine. But they're trying to do it right, and it was a priority. So that's how they did it short. If another pandemic comes and they shut down the world, guess they'll be able to do it again real fast.
Now, with that being said, though, could this be a telltale of what's to come in the future of medicine? Because we have diseases like cancer and things like that have been, we've been looking for cures. So we see how fast, when, like you say, the money is on the table. Could this be something, a positive thing, actually? Will we be able to get cures and vaccines faster, possibly now?
This is what they're saying, that this messenger RNA technology might be the key to dementia, to the cure for a number of things, because it's been something they've been working on. Is it new? It's not. They didn't do this whole thing in a year. They had the technology, but they really had got the focus to be able to go forward to try to come through with it. But this is groundbreaking, because they think they may be able to attack a number of diseases with the technology that they use in the vaccine.
All right. So, Dr. Bell, this next question is for you. So we see that it looks as though mask mandates are coming off. All right. We are not going to have these mandates coming very soon in Ohio and across America. But the question is, should I keep wearing my mask even after being vaccinated, even though the CDC is now saying it's safe to not wear your mask?
I've been telling people, you're the governor of your own body. And so you have to do what's comfortable for you. And I was having this conversation with my office staff, and even though the mask mandates are going to be lifted on June 2nd, doesn't mean that we should stop social distancing. When we're in a crowded store and you've been vaccinated, you don't have your mask on, and you feel like people are too close, stay away. If you want to wear your mask, wear your mask. That is totally fine. I probably will continue wearing my mask. I'm just used to wearing it now. I actually like wearing my mask, but it's up to people, their individual preference. So some of my patients are saying, when I'm in a grocery store and it's crowded, I'm still going to wear my mask. But when I'm outside, I'll take my mask off. I think the biggest thing is for those who are not vaccinated is you need to continue wearing your mask to prevent the spread of the virus.
Dr. Hall, did you want to add?
No, yes, no, that's true. And prevent you from getting it. The mask kind of goes both ways to a certain extent. It prevents you from getting it. And, so if I hadn't been vaccinated, I'd probably have to wear a mask. Unlike Dr. Bell, I hate wearing a mask. My chin gets hot, and it was hot, and I got a mask. So it's driving me crazy. I can't wait till I can stop wearing a mask, because I don't think I'm ever going to get used to it. But if you haven't been vaccinated, yeah. And the thing is, so I travel in circles where they're disproportionately African Americans, right? In my family and friends, and African Americans are disproportionately sort of not getting the vaccine. So if I go over Johnny's house on Saturday afternoon, I'm bound to be one of two people that actually got vaccinated, right? So that could be a hot spot down the road. I'm bound to get something over Johnny's house. I probably need to put a mask on. I don't want to wear a mask over Johnny's house. You see what I'm saying? But if I go out to Hunting Valley to somebody's house, I bet you everybody in that house is vaccinated. So I probably don't need to wear a mask. So it's impacting my quality of life, right? Because I got to wear a mask if I'm around my people, and then not wear a mask if I'm around people who are vaccinated. And it just doesn't make sense to me, because it's been proven safe. If people are waiting to see if it's safe, I got mine on the 29th of December. Right. So I'm almost 6 months into it. So I still feel fine. So it's, if you're waiting to see what happened, keep an eye on me, because I'll be at the front of the herd.
All right. And also, and just to kind of dispel, like I said, the rumor of, because if you're vaccinated, it is safe, though. It's safer, basically, to not wear the mask versus than when you aren't vaccinated. Basically, that's the answer here, though.
Correct.
Got you. All right. Just so we're clear, everybody knows it's safer, but like Dr. Bell said, you govern your body. So do what you feel is best, vaccinated or not vaccinated. All right. Well, let's get into our next section. Why should I get vaccinated at all? All right. We're going to start off actually bringing in Dr. Heckler. All right. And Dr. Heckler. Hi. Oh, look, Dr. Heckler is at work, y'all. Okay.
Yes. Hello.
Hi, Dr. Heckler. Thank you so much for joining us. I know you're busy and you're clearly doing what you do best. But I do want to start off with you with this question. And also I'll pose this to Dr. Hall. You can chime in as well. Does the vaccine make you totally immune to the virus?
Okay. Well, thank you all for having me. I'm sorry that I'm tardy. And this question, I would say, no, it does not. The vaccine creates antibodies, which antibodies essentially are like little soldiers that are working in your body, that if they see something they've seen before, they're going to get to work. And what will happen is, if they see COVID after you've been vaccinated, then they can try and fight it. So the chances of you getting the infection again are a lot lower. And if you do get the infection, you should have less severe symptoms than you would if you were not vaccinated. So I think that's the simple answer to that question.
Gotcha. Dr. Hall, did you have anything to chime in on
He gave the perfect answer. He gave the perfect answer.
All right. Before we, Danielle, this next question is coming to you, just so you know. Welcome, doctor. Thank you for joining us. We greatly appreciate your time. I watch a lot of sports. We deal with a lot of statistics and probabilities and everything. If you guys, one of you could put a number on the percent chance that you won't get it, are you willing to do that? Like, say, if you get vaccinated, you have a 90% chance of never getting the vaccine. Is that something that you can do, or are you just going to stick to your guns on your answer?
I'll stick my neck out and tell you that we're just going by the statistic. There was a study that came out last Friday. It said the Moderna and the Pfizer was 94% effective. And so you'd have to be constantly tested on a daily basis. You wake up in the morning, your throat feels a little sore. Am I going to get sick? And then you forget about it. By 10:15, you've forgotten about it, right? Well, did you almost get something? Were you about to get strep throat? Were you about to get COVID? You don't know, because your immune system's doing what it's supposed to do. It's on the alert if you happen to get exposed. And so what they're saying is 94% don't get any severe or even moderately severe disease. And so if you get the sniffles and you don't get tested, We don't know whether that was just a little mild version. You might have got exposed over Johnny's house, and then you got a mild version of it because you were vaccinated. But if you were not vaccinated, then it's highly contagious, and it picks and chooses who's is going to be very severe in. So the latest information is a 94% chance.
Sounds
Dr.
good
Hall,
to me.
can I add, but that's specifically Pfizer and Moderna, and I think that there is some information that's coming out for Johnson & Johnson, but the statistics as a part of their efficacy from the very beginning were much lower. And so if you got the Johnson & Johnson shot, which we know a lot of our sports teams did, because it was one of the easiest things for them, get one shot, you're done. You don't have to try and worry with these travel schedules. They got my first shot this day, and then I got to wait 2 weeks and get this shot or whatever. So I think that there are some people who are seeing some of the sports teams that have had quote unquote outbreaks. Well, the Johnson & Johnson shot, we knew from the very beginning, you were going to have a higher chance of having what they're calling breakthrough, I guess, a case of COVID, because if you only had 72% efficacy from the very beginning, that means you have almost a 30% chance still of potentially getting it if you come into contact. So when we're talking about these numbers, people have to also take a step back and say, which shot did I get? What were the statistics related to that particular shot? Because there are multiple vaccines available. But what I continue to hear from all of the doctors is they all still put you in a much better position to prevent death. And that's what we really care about, right? We don't want anybody to die from the actual virus. And all of the vaccines that are available today, they do a phenomenal job of that.
Preventing death is, I think that's a good characteristic to have in a vaccine. Danielle, since we was just rapping with you, what makes the vaccine safe and effective?
Again, I think that the thing that makes the vaccine safe and effective is it's putting your body in a position to be able to fight the coronavirus if you come into contact with it, right? And I think that's the biggest thing is what we've seen now is if you're not vaccinated and you get exposed to COVID, you have people that are having reactions all across the range. At one point in time, Black people thought we couldn't get it. And then we thought it was just for old people. And then we thought it was just people that were, quote unquote, unhealthy. But the number of cases that we're hearing of people that are having long hauler symptoms where they're young and were seemingly healthy and then got coronavirus and they're still having these things that are just not explainable. The vaccine is going to help you prevent those things happening to you. And so, again, I think that rather than gamble with the what if I get COVID, do I end up with all those other symptoms? Look at what's happening for folks that have gotten the vaccine. The rare side effects and all those things are much less than the tragedies that have been attached with getting the actual virus.
And I'll echo that's an excellent point. And I actually had COVID. I got COVID in November and was in the Cleveland Clinic for 9 days, an intensive care unit for 3 days. And so I can attest to both COVID and the vaccine. And I was short of breath through December, through January, and halfway through February, wearing oxygen, walking around with oxygen in my nose because of the long haul exhausted, early fatigue. And those things are real. And a third of the people that get COVID, a third of the people that get COVID get long-term disease. And I'm getting people off of work. It's been 3 weeks, 4 weeks since they had COVID, since they've recovered from COVID, and they still can't go back to work. And because I experienced it, I'm also aware of that. And so they're just being off, and they're wondering, like I was, am I going to be on oxygen the rest of my life? Am I going to not be able to run the rest of my life? All those things happen, as associated with getting the COVID infection. And so even though I got a little sick for like 8 hours when I got the vaccine, I got a little version of the COVID sickness that I got in November. That was nothing but a reminder of how sick as a dog I was. And it's also a sign that I now have immunity. My brother and my brother-in-law both had both shots. They got nothing, not even a sore arm. They got nothing. So I was like, well, maybe you're immune, maybe you're not. You could be in that 5% because nothing happened. But I know for a fact I'm immune. I haven't gone through what I went through.
And we're going to continue to talk to you, Dr. Hall, but just kind of chiming off of what you just said, as far as those long-term effects, like you said, we see that the effects of COVID don't just cannot just stop, at feeling better within 10 to 14 days, right? So could potentially the vaccine help with those long-term effects that people have been experiencing?
Not really. I mean, the long-term effects is from having a serious version of the COVID infection, right? So once you've got the infection, you have pneumonia. I had pneumonia, right? So I had shortness of breath. They were checking my pulse ox and it was low, and I was exhausted and fatigued and just laying around. And so that was because there was no vaccine available, right? And so my wife, for example, she got COVID at the same time. She just lost a taste in her mouth, right? And I feel like I might be healthier than her, but I definitely wasn't when it came to that. I definitely wasn't when it came to that. So so I've been sick, I had some degree of immunity, but now we've got all the variants going around. And so getting the vaccine helped me to feel like I don't want this. I don't want any version of this. And who knows if I would survive another version of this. So it's like I'm getting the vaccine so that we don't roll the dice on this one more time, and I'm walking around the house with oxygen in my nose. And so the vaccine is sort of on one side that this is what you do to prevent having these long situations. And then again, if you get the vaccine and then you get exposed to COVID, the odds are you're going to have a very mild case of it, and it'll be very short. That's just what the statistics are showing.
So that's what the vaccine focuses on. So we spoke briefly before, like a situation like if you have an autoimmune disease, but are there any other sicknesses that you could possibly have that could basically, or medical reasons that you shouldn't get the vaccine as a result of?
I think like Dr. Bell said earlier, that'd be something you could ask for your doctor, but generally no. I mean, aside from what we talked about with the immune systems, generally no. We've got people over 100 in nursing homes that we've given the vaccine to. I've had patients say, I'm too sick. I got COPD. I got a bad heart. I'm too big. I got hypertension. Those are all reasons to get the vaccine. That's not a reason to not get the vaccine, but they think I'm too sick to chance it. Well, you're too sick to not chance it, to be honest with you. And so I haven't seen any run-of-the-mill things that I've said no to. But if you are on something that's suppressing your immune system, if you've got uncontrolled HIV or something, it may be a waste of time to do it. If you do it, you want to do it when your immune system can respond the way the technology is supposed to.
Got you. So, Dr. Bell, we're going to come to you with this one. I know I've heard rumors of potential infertility or things, associated with the vaccination. How does the vaccine affect pregnant women or women looking to get pregnant in the near future?
So women who are vaccinated while they're pregnant, we know that their antibodies actually pass through the placenta to babies. So babies actually are getting some protection when mom is vaccinated during pregnancy. For women who are planning to become pregnant, the vaccine is recommended as well. Because if you happen to get COVID during pregnancy, you're at higher risk of having complications, preterm delivery, low birth rate of your infant, complications. We see higher rates of pregnant women who have COVID being on ventilators, having the long hauler syndrome. So it's no longer kind of a contraindication or a fear for women who are pregnant or planning to become pregnant not to get the vaccine.
Now, would the baby who, like you said, does get some of the antibodies, would they then need to be vaccinated even though they got some of the antibodies from the mother again?
We're not sure about that right now. There is, ongoing studies looking at vaccinating children 12 and under. We do think that the immunity will last a little bit, and at some point, typically around 6 months, is probably going to be the lower end of where children will be vaccinated. But at least there's that little bit of immunity for infants, newborns, protected against coronavirus.
So then, is there a such thing as being over-vaccinated? Like, can you have an overdose of the vaccine? Let's say, like, I'm just thinking as far as the babies, was there such thing?
No, I mean, the biggest thing is being vaccinated, having protection is much better than not having any protection whatsoever.
All right. All right. So, Dr. Hall, what is herd immunity? We've heard that term a gazillion times over, but I still don't think everybody totally understands what it truly means. And what does it look like basically for us now at this point in time?
Well, herd immunity is when a sufficient number of people in a community are have immunity to an infection or a virus or something, so that it can't continue to move, so it can't continue to travel and spread. And so, we've heard 70%, we've heard 80%, we've heard 90%. And so herd immunity it's hard to, as we can see, it's hard to obtain, right? Because you either have to get the shot or you have to, like me, get the infection. So I had a degree of immunity. I was part of the herd immunity before I got my vaccine, but it moved it even beyond that. And so generally we want most people to have it, so that if you go over somebody's house, you can't get it. There's people to block it, right? You're not sitting right next to someone else who has it or two other people that have it. You have a great chance that the vast majority of the people wherever you are have either had it or been vaccinated. And so again, my issue with our community is that the number is lower, right? And so we're further away from herd immunity than we'd like to be. And so and that's going to impact our ability to gather. And again, when we get the coronavirus, it's harder on us because we've got so much more chronic disease. We got more hypertension and diabetes and COPD, and the virus does worse to people who have those things, and we have those things sort of poorly managed already. So it sort of heaps on the chronic diseases that already exist.
And with that being said, like you said, because our people, we have these chronic diseases that affect us disproportionately, will there also be a push to do better in terms of things that we can do on our own to keep us healthier, so that these type of things don't affect us? Because we do know that when you're healthier, like you said, diseases like coronavirus and other things will not have such a harsh impact on us. So we do see the push for the vaccine, but what about the things that we can do, just even from working out more vitamins, just things like that? You think there'll be a push for that as well, especially for our communities?
Well, there has been a push. I mean, we are at the forefront. African Americans are at the forefront of funding right now for treating chronic diseases. But it's just a big process. We've got to increase the number of Black doctors. Here you've got 3 Black doctors on one screen. When does that ever happen, right? And so, and cardiologists, I mean, we got big shots. And so, but that we're still less than 4% of the doctor population. And so, African Americans do better when they see African American providers. That's just statistically true, right? And so if you have 13% of the population and you got 4% of doctors, you're not seeing enough of us. And so we're trying to push to try to increase the number of Black doctors so people feel more comfortable, because this goes back to what we talked about initially, right? Trust. I don't trust him. He didn't look right at me. She didn't sit down. They're not listening. They give me a chance to talk. And so without that trust, then I'm not going to do what you tell me. You can give me the medicine, but I'm not going to take it, or I'm not going to pick it up, or I don't trust you. We didn't have a good encounter, so I'm not going to take your advice. And so, and that's what African Americans are doing. They're not taking their doctor's advice because they do not trust them, right? They don't trust what they're saying. And so we need to either find a way so they can reach out an African American or provider that they do trust, or try to build a relationship with a provider that they do trust. Because I have Black patients that have white doctors that they love, or Asian doctors that they love, but it took time to build that up. And so, but we have to be deliberate about making sure that African Americans can see the providers that they want to see, so they can have a shot at building that trust, so that they can then have a shot at achieving their best health.
And before we get to the next question, I just want to say, for everybody watching, Dr. Hall said it. When's the last time you saw 3 Black medical providers all on a screen at the same time? This does not happen normally. So if you know somebody who is just sitting around, please let them know to tune in right now. We want to give you this opportunity to see people that reflect our communities so that you can gain this trust and understand that we're here to talk to you from our point of view. So please let your friends know we are here. We are here and watch us on Facebook and all that, and spread the word. Text somebody right now who you know needs to watch this, who you know is skeptical. Okay, you know it. Tell your mama, go ahead, get on here with us. And leave your questions. We're gonna answer your questions as well. Go ahead, Ned.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. This next question is for Dr. Hackler and Dr. Bell. We'll do ladies first. We'll just stick with that theme. We have heard that COVID impacts heart health. How true is that, and to what degree?
It's true. The virus causes inflammation in the body. The biggest organ that it affects is the lungs, but the lungs work closely with the heart. So the blood vessels, your veins, and your arteries. So when you get the infection, there's lasting damage. I'm going to take a step back though, because we got the cardiology fellow in the house. So I'm going to let Dr. Hackler go in even more on how it really affects the heart.
Okay. I mean, you said it very right. So the lungs and the heart work very close together, and COVID typically does affect the lungs. But a lot of people with COVID-19 do have cardiovascular manifestations of disease. However, there has not been any no histological evidence that this is directly related to COVID or from COVID. But we see, like Dr. Bell said, it's an inflammatory disease. So inflammation in the heart can manifest in a lot of different ways. The heart can become weak, meaning it's not pumping as well from the virus. We've seen that. We've seen there's a lining outside the heart called the pericardium. We've seen inflammation inside the pericardium to cause something called pericarditis, and fluid buildup around the heart as well as arrhythmias. The electrical system of the heart has been shown to go awry. And then also COVID causes a lot of embolic phenomena. So you get blood clots and thrombus of that nature. We've seen people who have myocardial infarction or heart attacks who also have COVID. And it's hard to say, causality. However, it's very close. So whenever someone comes in with COVID, they always get an echocardiogram to look at the function of their heart. And they also get cardiac testing to see if there is evidence of heart damage. And a lot of people sometimes, even if they don't have any manifestation of heart disease, like no failure or no symptoms, they might have cardiac testing that is still abnormal, or EKG testing that is still abnormal.
So I know, Dr. Hackler, you just threw a bunch of Jeopardy words at us, but the short answer is yes. No, you perfect, bro. I'm just talking, man. But yeah, so thank you for those responses. I'm sorry.
All right. Now, I'm going to see if we can pull in Miss Marsha Mocabee. I'm not sure if she's going to join us. Hey, Miss Mocabee, you are there. You joined us. You made it. Hi there.
Hello. It's been a journey.
It's been a journey, but you made it. All right. We're happy to have you. Miss Marsha Mocabee is the president and CEO of the Urban League Greater Cleveland chapter. So I'm just going to start this question with you, and also our physicians, you can chime in as well. But Miss Mocabee, if you had COVID, do you still need to get the vaccine?
Yes, you do. Once you've had COVID, most of the research says that you really only have immunity, and there's varied stances on how long the immunity lasts, but somewhere maybe around 90 days. So most recommend that you wait until you're better, and within about 3 months that you go ahead and get the vaccine.
Any of the physicians want to chime in on that one? We know, Dr. Hall, we know you had it and you were vaccinated.
Right. And yeah, you do, because I don't want to get it again. And I don't want to get, some other the French version of it, right? Because the version I had was bad enough. So I don't need to see any other version. That's for sure.
Now, we do know that the amount of reinfection is still pretty low for those who were infected once before. So could there be a possibility that you do have some long-term form of immunity to the virus as a result of being infected at one point?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, there is, of course. I mean, and since I had a really bad version of it, I probably have more immunity than my wife, who had a very mild version of it. So, these things vary from situation to situation. So, but it's a vaccine. So, I could get one once a month. I mean, I know people that don't like needles, would be adverse to that, but I would get one once a month if I had to. So but the day we're learning as we go, how long it's going to last, what the level of immunity, whether you can get it again. Some of those questions we don't know the answers to, just like we don't know the answer to a lot of other medical questions. But we're sort of learning as we go.
Unmute, my fault. Danielle Syndor, will come to you with this next one now. I'll reiterate what our host Bijou said a little bit ago. We did not write all of these questions, but in a few days the mandates will be lifted. Does that mean that COVID is over and we can all just go willy-nilly outside?
Absolutely not. Right. And I think we have talked about it over and over again. We know that it has been a drag to wear masks. It has not been fun. People have gotten creative with plastic shields, all kinds of stuff. Right. But the reality is, if we don't get vaccinated and people start to go out in crowds and back together, you're just going to see in certain small pockets where there's likely going to be new spikes in cases. Because people are going to think that everybody who doesn't have a mask on around them, they must not have COVID, or they must be vaccinated. Well, we know that that's not going to be the truth. People are tired of wearing masks, whether they've had the vaccine or not. And so it's just going to put you more at risk. And so I just encourage us to be the annoying friend, be the annoying family member, continue to encourage people to get their fears addressed so they can go take the vaccine. I don't discourage people that have fears. I get it, right? Like, we all have fears of different stuff. But like Dr. Hall said earlier, there's information that's out there to help you address those fears. So don't go on Facebook and fall into the anti-vaxxer group for your solutions. You have to get it from credible sources. You have platforms like this where you'll be able to come back later and watch it. So if you couldn't catch it when it was live, come watch it later. If you saw it and you thought it was impactful, tell somebody about it. We got to get our folks vaccinated. Everything's open back up, but COVID has not gone away.
That is a fact. And with that being said, I do want to ask this question before we move on to our next segment. So it does seem as though, that there's a bit of segregation kind of being created between vaccinated folks and non-vaccinated folks. And there's going to be a controversy going forward about what you can and can't do based off of your vaccine status. So should people who are vaccinated actually have fear or be worried about being around those who aren't vaccinated, or should it be the other way around because you can still spread it even though you're vaccinated? Anybody can.
As someone who's vaccinated and immune, I don't really worry about it anymore, to be honest with you, just because I don't worry about it. So if I was not vaccinated, I would absolutely worry about getting what I got in November. If you're not worried about it, you should be worried about it. And as a medical provider, I was really, really careful and still caught it. Right. And so, and not in time to get the vaccine. Right. So I think if you're vaccinated, you can kind of drop your guard to a certain extent. But if you are around someone where there may be the coronavirus circulating, you could be in that 5% where you get sick and then you take it back home to somebody who's also not vaccinated but says they don't go anywhere. Or you could be, if you get the J&J, you'll be in the 35% where you might get moderate disease or something of that matter. So it's just easier. I mean, we all got the polio, we've all had tetanus, we've all, polio was devastating. We think the coronavirus, you go back into polio days, polio was taking people out big time and maiming the people that they didn't take out. But we eliminated that with what? A vaccine, right? So it is what it is. And so you don't have to do it, but just educate yourself about it and make the decision so that you're comfortable about it. I don't think it should be mandated. I don't think they should be second-class citizens or anything. If you had it, you got sick like me, You probably got pretty good immunity, so you're probably in the herd. You know what I'm saying? But probably is not 100% association, and it's a shot. So I got it.
Thanks for
Good
your
answers. Good answers. I just want to go back, touch on something Danielle said real quick. If you are watching this live, you can hit that share button if you don't feel like putting it on your own social channel or whatever, but you know somebody who needs this information. You can even just send them the video directly, because it'll still live on after we end the live. But we'll move on to our next segment, which is called Which Vaccine is Best for Me Between the Three? And we'll start with Dr. Hackler and Dr. Hall. And Dr. Hackler, we'll start with you. And if you can even, I'm going to chime in with a little bonus question here, because a lot of people were very apprehensive about the, Dr. Hall, you called it the J&J, the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, because everybody, baby oil and the whole nine. So if somebody can explain why they're even in the game. But the question is, should or can I pick which vaccine I take?
So I think it depends on what location you go to get your vaccine. I don't think every single location has every vaccine available. So I think that'll be a part of it. So wherever you go for your care, between Moderna and between Pfizer, I mean, the data is very, very similar. The efficacy is very similar. The side effect profile is very similar. So I don't think that it does you much good to try to choose between those two. The Johnson & Johnson, it has a lot of pros to it. I mean, it's a one shot. It's a shot that you can store in places like, that you don't necessarily need a specific type of refrigerator for, where you need Pfizer and Moderna. So you can probably get those out like maybe more in the community. The efficacy for the one shot is, it's good to be one shot. So I think, when it comes to choosing which vaccine to get, a lot of people got scared after the blood clots for the people who got J&J. But you also have to take that into context. That was 6-7 people out of the 7 million people that got that vaccination. You have a better chance of getting struck by lightning or hit by a train or getting shot even than you do with getting a blood clot from the J&J vaccination. So I think you need to take all that into consideration, and it's up to us to actually put that information out here to our community in a digestible way that makes sense to them. Because if you just put, this vaccine causes blood clots, okay, that's it. People are looking for any reason not to get vaccinated. And if you give them that without the education and without the proper context, then things get taken out of hand.
All right. So we're going to take this to Dr. Bell. Is the vaccine safe for 12 to 15-year-olds? And is it important for them to get it? And I know, Danielle, you said that your children actually got the shot as well. So you can chime in on that.
Yes, the vaccine has been approved for children, everyone 12 and up. It is safe for children to get. We have talked about adults, but children have caught the virus, had serious complications. We've had children die from the virus. These are not necessarily children who have had any chronic medical problems. This is not children who have been overweight. These have been healthy kids that have had complications or who have died from the virus. So it is highly recommended that our kids get it, especially for Black and brown folk. They're our future. So if they're getting coronavirus and they're having lasting chronic medical problems or they're dying for it, where's our future? Again, we cannot have a seat at the table. And to be, totally transparent, I was very hesitant about getting the vaccine. I was one of the last healthcare providers at my institution to be vaccinated. Just because, of all the things that we talked about before, one of the best things that I did was on my birthday is I got my first dose of my vaccine. I feel so liberated. A weight was taken off of my shoulders. So I am trying to convince my 12-year-old son to get the vaccine. He is hesitant. My 11-year-old daughter, she wants it and she's upset that she can't get it. So have those brutally honest conversations with your kids. Part of the reason my son is hesitant because I was hesitant, but he knows I got the vaccine. So I'm encouraging him not to be afraid. He got his regular shots from his doctor last year. This is just another shot that you have to get. So I recommend 12 to 15-year-olds, as well as everyone, please do get the vaccine.
I think Dr. Bell brings up a really good point about the hesitancy when you think about children. And I remember when my kids, so they're now 18 and soon to be 17, so young men, and one that reminds me all the time that he's a grown up. But I remember when they were probably like 9 and 10, and their doctor wanted them to participate in a meningitis B vaccine study. And even though as the parent, I had the right, so to speak, to enroll them in the trial, their doctor still sat down with them and had a full conversation about the benefits of them as young Black men participating in something and how it could help save somebody's life. And so I think about this conversation today and how many of us won't die from meningitis because there are vaccines, but most of us know somebody who died from meningitis. I remember going off to college and it was like, check your neck and touch the back of your spine. And if you think it's swollen, like go to the doctor, you might have meningitis. We don't have those conversations anymore. And so it wasn't that long ago that we had something that was this devastating. And so I think also as parents now that have young people that are eligible to get it, and obviously, again, it's still certain vaccines like J&J you can't get for a 12-year-old, you should talk to their doctor as well, because they look to them if they're going to see their physician regularly. My sons trust their doctor too. So them having the conversation with him about why the vaccine is safe also make them feel good because they've known him their whole life.
And I also want to chime in. I as a parent, we understand we want the best for our children. We'll take a experimental thing before we'll give it to our kids. And I know that's what a lot of parents who even called into our radio shows and said, "Well, look, I got the shot, but I'm not letting my children get the shot." And I think there has a lot to do with the fact that they trust it, but it's still what we know as a trial period happening right now. So could you guys kind of elaborate on what it means for this to be still a testing time that we're in to an extent, to which can kind of give, better understanding to how long this time of trial will be before we can know for sure that it's safe to give our children?
I guess I can answer. There in medicine, you can never say always and never say never, right? And so I would be lying to you if I told you I could tell you there was a time when you'd be for sure, because that doesn't happen. Life is there's nothing for sure, right? Except for my mother would say, and I can't say this on the radio. But aside from that, there's nothing for sure. And so what we're trying to do is get to the point where we don't have, almost 600,000 people. We saw that slow down significantly, right? The people that have died because of efforts that we've been doing. We've definitely hit the brakes on this, and things are definitely getting better. And we've got medication in the hospitals that treat coronavirus better than they had when I was in the hospital, or better than last summer when other people were in the hospital. So we're kind of catching on. And so I tell some of my patients who didn't get the vaccine and then got coronavirus, and so when you go to the hospital, you're going to take that new medicine, that monoclonal antibodies. You're not pushing back on that, right? You're going to take that. That's brand spanking new too, right? Or the remdesivir, that's brand spanking new. When you're laying up in the hospital like I was with oxygen, your perspective changes. So I'm saying if you're gonna, we would say wink, wink. If you're not going to take the vaccine, then you wouldn't, you just go down the other way. But that's not true. So at some point, you're going to accept modern new technology, and if you get coronavirus, then I'm pretty sure you're going to accept. You're sick as I was. You're going to accept this new technology. So it's just so much easier to accept the technology that prevents you from having to go to the hospital, prevents you from having to be laid up. I was for months. There's just no reason to do it as long as you know.
Good answer right there. And Dr. Hall, we'll stay with you. And you touched on this a little bit ago. You can elaborate right now. Will we need booster shots in the future for those who get vaccinated?
So a booster shot is when your immune system when it sort of dies down to the point where if you got exposed to it, you might get it again, right? So we have tetanus shot every 10 years, right? You get a booster shot. When you get a hepatitis B vaccine, that's 3 series. You get one, and then a month later, and then 6 months later. That's just sort of helping your immune system gear up so that you are effectively immune. So right now we got this new novel coronavirus. So we don't know, but most of the time, people over time their immunity will die down a little bit, and they will need a booster shot. But right now, we're not worried about the booster shot. We're right in the middle of a pandemic, so it's the initial shot we're trying to get people to get. Right. And while we're on that, even the Pfizer and Moderna, one of those shots is not worthless. One of those shots is better than no shot. And so, the second shot is a booster shot as it is. When you get the first one, that second one 3 or 4 weeks later, that's a booster shot. So we're already in the middle of a whole lot of booster shots, and odds are over time, who knows what that time is going to be, whether it's going to be 3 years or 1 year or 10 years or 20 years, there probably will be a booster shot.
And could these shots, since we're talking about boosters and vaccines, how there's some, when you have newborns where they're just kind of almost mandated vaccines. Do you all foresee this kind of being one of those vaccines that we will eventually have on that list of vaccines and shots that we give to the babies?
I don't know. That's a good question. I'm not good with mandates. I think people should just be informed. But at some point, when things like measles is also very deadly, and the people that don't believe you should get a measles vaccine, and measles will make you infertile, right? If you want to talk about infertility. So there are. When your rights go up to the point where they infringe on everyone else's rights, right? And so that's going to be ultimately the discussion. But I'm hoping that people will just sort of do the right thing, and like they did with polio, like they did with smallpox, like we've done with so many things, where it's like, let's just not get hepatitis B. Let's get the vaccine. Let's just not get. There was an HIV vaccine. Would there be a problem with getting a vaccine? So let's just not politicize it. Let's just follow the science.
And I must say, my father has a war room, I call it, of the polio vaccine. And it's funny because we say, like, wait a minute, like, this is just a shot. It doesn't leave a mark on your body forever. Like, some of these old vaccines that you had to get, I mean, we see it forever. I'm like, what type of shot was that they gave you? But like you said, it was necessary, at one point. So this at least doesn't, like I said, leave a lifelong scar on your body that some people still have. But Mrs. Mocabee, let's get to you. Where can we get the vaccine? We lost her just that fast. All right. Well, until she gets back, anybody else want to take on that question for us?
So I would just say, I know Ms. Mocabee and I are working together with the state of Ohio and trying to get people out to the Wolstein Center. So if you're in Cuyahoga County, you don't have to be a resident of Cuyahoga County. If you're close by and you want to come to a place where it's really easy to get in, the Wolstein Center in downtown Cleveland is taking appointments. They're taking walk-ins. And I'll let Marsha talk about some of the other things that are happening in the community that I know she's working really tirelessly on with the state.
Absolutely. Thank you, Danielle. There are many community sites. Another good place to call, if I missed hearing you, Danielle, is contacting 211. That is an excellent resource to call because it can help you find the location that's nearest to you. And often there are opportunities to even help you to get there, to get your vaccination. And also on the CDC site, there are actual calendars that tell you what the timeframes are for the shots at the various locations. And you can even sign up online to have information sent to you on a regular basis as it's updated.
Awesome information with that. So, and I just want to say before we get to our final question, if you all have questions, please leave them for us. I want to shout out Tina Sterling, who said that she got both doses and had no problems. All right, Miss Sterling, and she's checking in from C1079's Facebook. But if you do have any questions, we will have time coming up very soon to answer those for you.
Absolutely. So one final prepared question for Dr. Bell. So if you have somebody elderly that can't leave the house, is it possible to get the vaccine administered at their home?
So it varies between what county you live in, what's available. Probably most of the viewers are in the Cleveland area in Cuyahoga County. So we have the vaccine queens that are working with Discount Drug Mart that are coming to people's homes to vaccinate them. But then you can also reach out because most of the people who are homebound tend to be older patients, but also there are pediatric patients as well. But the Western Reserve Area Agency on Aging, their telephone number is 216-621-0303. You can call and they will give you information how someone can come out to your home to give you the vaccination. You can also check with your county health department as well to find out different agencies and resources that are available so that for those who are homebound can receive the vaccine.
All right. Well, we have got so much information today from our panel. But I do know that we want to get to any questions that our viewers might have. So we're going to go to Kenya Brown. Hi, Kenya. That's my super producer right there from the Sam Silk Show with me. So Kenya wants to know, if someone is vaccinated, would they still be in danger?
So again, no promises. Nothing is 100%. Nothing is always, and nothing is never. And so you could still get polio. You could still get smallpox, even though we think it'd be eradicated. I can't give you 100% not, but we can say that by and large, over 95%. That's really high numbers. We're not seeing those numbers with the annual flu vaccine. So this vaccine, the messenger RNA, the Pfizer and the Moderna are amazing in how well they're working. And so that's the best you can get. But there's no promises. There are people that might get sick after having. I know of people who've had both shots and have gotten coronavirus again because of these variants. And that's as the virus travels from person to person, it takes on just a little bit of different character. And so as it moves around, that's when it kind of changes. And that's when we have to have boosters that sort of address that specific variant, the South African variant, the British variant, and there's probably a variant growing in India right now that's going to be something that's going to be an issue somewhere. So as soon as we can stop the virus from moving around, then we're going to stop the development of these variants, and then we're going to decrease the chance of you being vaccinated and also getting sick with a variant that's significantly different from that original one.
Thanks for that answer. So we do know that Dr. Hall made a point earlier. If you wanted to give our community something, there would be better ways to do it than vaccines. And we do know that our folks love a lottery, okay? So they were not off the mark when they created the Vax a Million lottery, all right? So the Vax a Million lottery, all right? You can have your chance to win $1 million, all right, if you get vaccinated. That's a lot of money, all right? And you have the chance to get registration. It began last week and it's going on now. Now, from what I know, if you were vaccinated, your name was actually already put into the hat or the drawing. So you don't have to try to go fake and get another vaccination trying to get into this lottery pick, okay? You're good. You're good. But if you have not yet gotten vaccinated, individuals can also opt in for eligibility by calling 1-833-4-ASK-ODH. Now, you have to be an Ohio resident to be eligible for this, and you must have at least one shot of the COVID-19 vaccine at the time of the lottery. Now, winners will be chosen every Wednesday beginning May 26th. That's next Wednesday at 7:29 p.m. That is when that first drawing will go. So you have a little bit of time to get in there and get that shot, all right? If you're trying to get in at least for that first drawing.
I wonder why they chose 7:29 p.m., but that's neither here nor
Right,
there. 5 Ohioans.
I don't know. But hey.
Yeah, 5 Ohioans over the age of 18 will be chosen at random in 5 separate weekly drawings. The first drawing will be held on May 26th, like Bijou just said, with 4 consecutive drawings held each Wednesday that follows that, and each winner will get $1 million. And I gotta imagine that your chance of winning this lottery is probably a lot high. Well, I don't know about a lot, but probably better than winning the actual lottery that millions of people play every day, as is already. So winners will need to pay taxes. 5 people 17 years old and under, this is dope too, will be eligible to win a full 4-year scholarship if they're vaccinated. Registration is the same for these individuals, so you can click on the link to sign up. 1 student will be randomly selected each Wednesday for 5 weeks as well. The governor announced receiving a full scholarship, including tuition, room and board, and books to an Ohio university. And like Danielle just said, you got a 17 and an 18-year-old. So man, listen, if one of them could get 4 years of free tuition, room and board, can't beat that.
I registered them for I already registered them. Yep.
Yeah. So, but that's really all what we had prepared. I know. Bijou, I didn't check. Do we got any more?
No, I don't see any other questions. Okay. So, and that is a good thing too, because that means we got all of the good questions in.
Right.
And I think that we informed our listeners and our viewers the best that we can. And I just want to say this is probably the most transparent panel that I have done an interview with since this whole coronavirus has come about. I love the transparency, and once again, the feeling of familiarity and just a level of comfort that you get from seeing people that look like you talk to you about a topic as sensitive as the vaccine. And I just want to thank all of our panelists today for your time and for your transparency as well in telling us about your experiences and what you do know from just research and your backgrounds as to why this vaccine is something that we need to hop on as a community. But with that being said, it is time for us to get out of here. I think we held y'all long enough. And you are going to be able to watch this later on. One thing about the internet, it lives forever. All right. So please share this link. If anybody missed it, this was extremely informative. So pass it on. All right. Let's get folks to get this information so they can make the best decisions for themselves. I love how Dr. Bell said it. You are the governor of your body. Okay. At the end of the day, it's your decision, but you want to make the most informed one. All right, Maddie, I want you to say something.
Oh, I didn't know if they was we was doing mad. Somebody cut me off in the middle of talking because they thought we was closing. So I didn't know. But I do want to say I greatly appreciate everybody that joined this panel. I think that not only are your answers super important, obviously, but also just, being able to showcase people of color in high positions who can talk from the other side of this thing, right? Because a lot of us are not on the side that you guys are on. We don't get to see those decisions being made or the things that you really have to comb through in order to make sure that everything is on the up and up for us. So, I appreciate you all's service just in that regard. But again, obviously for joining the panel and being a part of this was very special. And just to echo what Bijou said, obviously, if you're watching this, it's going to live there. Share it. At least one person that needs some of this information that we talked about today. So send it to them. If you don't want to put it on your own social, you can just DM it to them. Whatever you got to do, help us get the information out there, because I think a few of you said it, having the information and sharing the information is so important because there's a lot of misinformation out there. So thank you.
Thank you all. All right. Well, everyone have a blessed and safe evening, and we hope to hear from you all again soon as our top 4%. Okay, we got our 4% of our positions, our Black positions. We are so blessed to have you all on here with us. Thank you, and have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks.
Good night.
Bye bye.
Good night.